But I would be remiss if I invited on the godfather, the developer of Yards Created. One of my favorite starts, my stats of all time, I always cite it when people ask me, what do you like to use to scout rookies, especially running backs? There's no better metric, in my opinion. I love the blend of film, analytics, everything you do that goes into it. So I can't have you on here and not pick your brain just a little bit, Graham, on Yards Created. Do you have like one or two guys from this 2021 class that really stood out to you?
Yeah, I've been saying this since like January that this class was awful and it's just like very top heavy. And the NFL kind of told us that, there's 4 backs that went, day 1 and day 2. And that's not very common. There's usually like on average, I went back and looked at this. There's usually like 6 at minimum and then like 10 at max. It was just a light class, from the top to the bottom. There was like fewer running backs drafted this year than the previous 8 years of drafts. So yeah, off the top, just not a good class. But I think the big 3 are one of them is gonna pop in a big way this year, maybe 2. I guess we can start with Javonte Williams because he led this class in yards created per attempt. Trey Sermon was second. Javonte Williams also led this class in missed tackles forced per attempt. He's just a fantastic back, man. And I think he went to a perfect situation. A lot of people have been skeptical of him because of Melvin Gordon and what kind of role Melvin Gordon will command. And it's true. I mean, Gordon's probably going to play on passing downs, but, Williams is already a more talented runner than Javonte Williams. Broncos have a fantastic offensive line. And like when you get a combination of a great back who can force missed tackles and create on his own, combined with an above average offensive line, usually the results are fantastic. So, I think everything's kind of set up for Javonte Williams to do really well. And the problem now is the market's like all over it. He's like 5th, 6th round pick in best ball right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the pick. Pat Shurmur, they can talk committee all they want, but he's a historic bell cow breeder. I know your man Scott Barrett over there always talks about weighted opportunity, and he's always been a big Pat Shurmur truther for how he always, whether it was Steven Jackson, Dalvin, whoever's been in his path, he's always, even Trent Richardson had monster workloads. And if this guy's as good as yards created suggest, as all the metrics from Pro Football Focus, I think he broke their record for broken tackles. I'm with you. I think this guy by midseason, and you mentioned Trey Sermon, number 2. I mean, could there be a better fit for that zone blocking team for Kyle Shanahan? Absolutely love that fit right there.
Yeah, man. I went back and actually when I was writing up the yards created breakdown for the site, I was just doing some research on Sermon because he transferred, right? He transferred from Oklahoma to Ohio State. And when he was transferring from Oklahoma to Ohio State, he was watching Shanahan's Niners or his outside zone. I shit you not. He was watching and analyzing like their outside zone scheme because there's a lot of parallels between what Ohio State and Ryan Day does and what Sermon, was going into from Oklahoma. So yeah, I mean, he has very deep familiarity already with this outside zone scheme that Shanahan's going to run. And, the Niners I think they kind of felt like last year with all their backs dying and they had to make some sort of investment. Yeah. Mostert was not healthy all year. He had an ankle and a knee injury. They had to do something. And I think Sermon right now, I still think Mostert is probably going to start the year as like the 1A, but I would not be surprised at all if Sermon ends up being like, not necessarily a bell cow. I don't think that's in his range of outcomes, but, certainly like a solid low-end RB2 flex play by, midseason.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Kyle Shanahan told him, when they gave that draft phone call, we had to go get you. We saw teams coming up and we were nervous. So to put that draft capital in to trade up and go get this guy, the highest draft capital they've put into a running back in a long time, I'm all about it. I think it's going to be a beastly fit. As you said, it might take a little while to get there. But when you look at their playoff schedule, isn't it something like Houston and the Bengals and the Titans and like the Falcons all in a 4-week span? Like, it's gorgeous.
It's really soft. It's it's really soft. The Niners have a pretty soft schedule in general this year. So they got pretty lucky after a brutal year last year with all their injuries.
Exactly. And we were talking about that with Pete Overs, I think a couple days ago, about winning these big best ball tournaments. We're going to talk about best ball in a second. You got to kind of look ahead at those playoff schedules if you really want to take down these large field ones where weeks 15, 16, 17 really matter. So a guy like Sermon, Lance, all that, those 49ers could make massive gains because of it. So keep your eyes peeled on Javonte Williams, Trey Sermon, the two leaders of this class in yards created. I could go all day with yards created, a whole other show potentially with you. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.